Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Troy, your host. We are live and recording.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started, let me just confirm with IT that we are set and ready to go. Not quite. Okay, so we'll hold up for a few minutes for that to get reconciled. Okay, thank you so much for your patience and appreciate IT's work. I went to law school because I was told there'd be no IT, so thankful for that. Before we go ahead and call the meeting to order, we will have our invocation, and I've been told that Tim Ralph from the Sheriff's Office is here. There you are. Hi, Tim. Can we put you on the spot to do an invocation? I was told by your undersheriff that would be okay. Maybe you're kind of good at this. Please. Yep.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and share. And I know your responsibilities today, and I usually read your proverb of the day. Today is the 9th, and so it says, wisdom has built her house, and she's made 7 columns in it. Those columns are what hold things up, and
Enter
obviously
the webinar panelist numeric password, followed.
Must have been Lady Wisdom, I don't know. So she obviously wants a password. Should I continue?
Please.
Okay, so anyways, government is one of those pillars. And so it is your responsibility to hold the system up along with so many other people, family, churches, military, and everything else. So if you would pray with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for the men and women in this room and for the things that they do. Thank you, Lord, for this day, our families. Thank you for this county and the things that go on in this county. We pray over each and every one of them. Law enforcement, fire, for our government workers, our civilian workers, Lord. Pray for the county commissioners, Lord, and those that work in this office, Lord, that God, you will just guide them and direct them more than anything, that they would hear your voice, Lord. And Lord, that they would stand up as a pillar to do what they have been called to do, as we all are. So, Father, bless this meeting, this time, we pray in your wonderful Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim. So with that, it is 1:40 p.m. on the 9th. I'll call this meeting to order. If you'll all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Attorney Garcia, do we have certification of today's agenda?
You do. The county attorney's office has reviewed today's agenda, and the commissioners have jurisdiction over all matters.
Great, thank you for that. And do any commissioners have disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have no disclosures, and I do have one question for the attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
So I see item O is still within the consent agenda. It was not cured? I didn't hear you.
That remains on the agenda. That item has not been cured.
Thank you. I have no other questions, and I have no things to report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
No, sir.
And I have no disclosures either. With that, we'll move on to item 2, ceremonies and proclamations. And our first today is a resolution proclaiming May 15th through 21st of 2023 as Law Enforcement Week in Douglas County, Colorado, and honoring the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Under Sheriff David Walcher, presenting for the Sheriff's Office. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Sheriff Weekly could not be here today, but I'm happy to be here in his stead, and it's a pleasure and honor to be right here today. This resolution is about Law Enforcement Week, and I have to say that in looking at the room, at our staff specifically, and those in uniform or otherwise, all of us look back at our careers, and this week is special to us. And I know for me personally, the first person I know that was put on the wall in Washington, D.C. was in 1984, Special Agent Cliff Browning of the FBI. I worked with Cliff back in 1984. And then, of course, in Jefferson County, my first field training instructor, Tim Mossberger, was killed in the line of duty in 1995. So this hits home to people in law enforcement. And furthermore, if I can spend just a moment with you, in the last week or two, I received this document. It's the 2022 end-of-year preliminary law enforcement officers fatalities report, published by the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. And what's astonishing about this in our line of work is the fact that 226 federal, state, tribal, and local law enforcement officers died in the line of duty in 2022. And what it says in this report is 64 officers were shot and killed in the line of duty in 2022, mirroring the 64 officers who were shot and killed in 2021. This continues, and this is a quote, "This continues a disturbing trend of an increase in firearms-related deaths compared to the average number of officers killed by gunfire each year in the prior decades." And just as alarming, the number one circumstance as identified in this report of officers being killed in the line of duty was by ambush. So law enforcement, I've always said this, it's the most difficult job in America, and I appreciate the Board of County Commissioners. You in general have always supported law enforcement, and specifically, we enjoy a heck of a lot of support from you as commissioners, so we appreciate that much. So, Commissioner Layden, I'd love to read this resolution.
Under Sheriff, please.
Okay. This is a resolution proclaiming May 15th through 21st, 2023 as Law Enforcement Week in Douglas County, Colorado, and honoring the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including Sergeant Wayne Bryant in 1978, Deputy Ron King in 1999, Deputy Zach Parrish in 2017, and Detective Joe Pollock in 2021. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And whereas 556 new names of fallen heroes were added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 224 killed in 2022 and 332 officers who died in previous years before 2022. Whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed on the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 35th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13, 2023. And whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-staff. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Douglas, Colorado, formally declares May 15th through 21, 2023 as Law Enforcement Week in Douglas County and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across this nation. So hopefully this resolution will be passed and adopted by this board on the 9th day of May, 2023 in Castle Rock, Colorado. Thank you.
Undersheriff, thank you so much for reading that resolution. And I think it's clear from your demeanor and the way in which you read that, the years, if not decades, of service in which you have experienced loss and truly dedicated your life to the service of public safety, and that is greatly appreciated. Let me open it up to our Board of County Commissioners for any questions or comments.
So, Under Sheriff, I appreciated just before the meeting, you came over here and talked to me about how you had lunch with a mutual friend of ours. And then when you were speaking, you talked about how this week always hits home for all of us. I spent 26 years with the State Patrol, and I'll always remember this day, September 26, 1987, a state trooper named Charlie Fry was hit on Monument Hill and was killed. I was a trooper in Castle Rock, and I found that hit-and-run driver and interviewed him. And when we went to court in El Paso County, he was convicted. So I have seen firsthand. In fact, his widow died last year, and she and I remained close friends throughout all these years. And so this is very real. Just one last story. On January 23rd, 2001, a state trooper named Jason Manspeaker was looking for some escapees from Texas. And he was driving too fast on I-70, and he lost control of his car, and he was killed. His name is on that wall, and I went up to that scene, and I remember being asked to go with him to the coroner's office and take his badge and gun and go see his widow and give her his badge. And so these are things that live with us forever. So memorializing today is very important, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, and thank you for your service on the State Patrol. Commissioner Teal?
Well, Under Sheriff, I'll say I'll start the way that my colleague finished. I mean, thanks for being here. Thanks for bringing this before us so that we can memorialize this week for those who work every day and put their lives on the line every day to, create a safe and peaceful community for us. So thanks a lot, Dave. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. You're right, Undersheriff. We have always had a philosophy in Douglas County of supporting law enforcement. And a few years ago, we heard a lot of rhetoric nationally and even in Colorado around defunding the police. You've heard me say it many times that in Douglas County, we do not defund the police, we fund the police. We believe in public safety. We know our citizens, those we serve, believe in public safety, and that will continue to be our role from a leadership standpoint as long as we are here. The other issue too is always caring for the caretakers. I think you engender so much, putting yourself in harm's way on a daily basis, and your office has done a great job of caring for those that care for all of us. And so we just continue to encourage that, and it's an honor to support this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
So with that, let me open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment with regard to this item? Okay, Troy, do we have any citizen comment online? Okay, and I'm hearing Troy may not be able to hear us because of the IT challenges. I just want to make sure there's nobody online wanting to comment.
Go ahead and go through all the resolutions, then do public comment, and then we'll interrupt.
Okay.
Set something for 2 minutes, and we can do public comment.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll proceed with that. Let me bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
So let me just add, I forgot to say that Ron King is one of the officers from Douglas County that you're honoring. He was a state trooper in Castle Rock, and I worked the same shift with Ron for many years. He is a great guy and a really sorry loss for all of us, so thank you.
Well, I have no other comments, but I would love to make the motion to approve a resolution proclaiming May 15 through 21, 2023 as Law Enforcement Week in Douglas County, Colorado, and honoring the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. And if you'll all join me in a round of applause for law enforcement today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Enter the webinar panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
There's Mrs. Wisdom again, Chaplain. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to the next item in our agenda today, which is item 2B, a resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month. And we have Laura Cinconi, our Mental Health
meeting
Initiative
is being
Coordinator,
recorded.
presenting for staff. Hi, Laura.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the time and space on the agenda to recognize mental health as central to overall health. The board in Douglas County has recognized Mental Health Awareness Month since May of 2017, shortly after our Community Response Team program was established. And we just passed the anniversary for that program, which was May 7th, 2017. So I will read this resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is part of overall health and is something we all have. Whereas mental health conditions are common in the United States, with in 2022 over 20% of U.S. adults and 17% of U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health problem. And whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by the age of 24, and whereas long delays, on average 10 years, but sometimes decades, occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help. And less than half of adults and approximately half of youth experiencing a mental or behavioral health condition each year receive treatment. And whereas suicide ranked as the 8th leading cause of death in Colorado in 2021 and remains the #1 cause of death among individuals aged 15 to 24 years old in Colorado. And in 2020, 51% of men and 68% of women in Colorado who died by suicide had a known mental health condition. And whereas in 2021, over 58,000 Douglas County adults, or 19%, reported poor mental health, meaning 14 or more days out of the last 30 days, their lives were impacted due to poor mental health. And whereas the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative, DCMHI, was established in 2014 under the leadership of the Board of County Commissioners to address mental health system gaps, and is currently represented by 50+ organizational members dedicated to improving mental health and behavioral health outcomes in Douglas County. And whereas DCMHI launched the Community Response Team 6 years ago in May 2017, and since then has served 6,994 unique individuals, prevented 1,329 unnecessary trips to the Emergency Department for Mental Health Crisis, prevented 563 jail bookings, served 2,066 people through its case management service, and has saved over $10.4 million in fire and emergency medical services, emergency department visit, and jail costs alone. And whereas the community response team will expand this year to 9 teams serving the entire county and for the first time provide weekend coverage. And whereas the DCMHI launched the Care Compact in 2020 to provide care coordination for adults with complex mental health, substance use, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and unmet basic needs, and which has now served over 70 adults, resulting in significant reductions in the use of crisis and emergency services. And whereas the DCMHI Collaborative is actively working on multiple strategies to improve the mental health network of care, address persistent stigma that surrounds mental health conditions and substance use disorders through stigma reduction and building awareness of community resources, and looks forward to launching in the coming years a response to suicide prevention with the Douglas County Health Department, developing partnerships to address men's mental health, and the behavioral health workforce shortage. And whereas the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners has dedicated $9,060,800 of the county's $68.2 American Rescue Plan Act funding to mental and behavioral health programming, including investments in veterans' mental health services, an all-ages walk-in crisis center, and a child and adolescent crisis stabilization unit, suicide prevention, expansion of the community response team and care compact programs, community education, and funding contribution to implement the new 988 crisis and support line. And whereas the DCMHI supports and encourages early identification and treatment, which can make a difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery, maintenance of mental well-being and learning the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it's needed, engagement of every citizen and community in ending the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help, and public education and civic activities, which can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now wherefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Douglas, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 1st through May 31st, 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month to shine a light on mental health conditions and fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for equitable access to care. Thank you.
Laura, thank you so much for that and for your incredible leadership and service in the Mental Health Initiative, along with Barbara Drake and so many members of staff, Maggie Cooper, and others that have really contributed their careers toward addressing mental health in our community. Any questions for Laura?
I have none, thank you.
No questions?
You know, I will just add that mental health is a really significant issue, and we've heard that for many years. And I'm always very encouraged when our board, the three of us, work well together towards an issue of significance in our community. And I'm pleased to report that this board has unanimously and I think powerfully worked to address mental health with increased funding, ensuring that we have that co-response team, which is just, it's led to so many diversions out of jails and emergency rooms, and the expansion that we've seen in that co-response to youth co-response has been really significant. The fact that we now have a 3-digit mental health line, 988, in partnership with so many throughout the state and nation is a really significant advancement in mental health. And we know statistically that there are particular groups that are the most vulnerable to potential suicide. It's veterans, it's LGBTQ youth, and surprisingly, it's also middle-aged white men aged 44 to 64. A lot of people forget about that. We have not, and we take those statistics, all of those statistics, seriously. I really appreciate what you said, that we're not going to tell those groups to stay silent, to go away, to be quiet. If we really care about those that are vulnerable, we are going to reach out to them and do what we can to help with their mental health. So I really appreciate your comments today. Let me just open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment with regard to this item? Yes, ma'am. Well, citizen and staff member Barbara Drake. Actually, you're a citizen of El Paso County, so technically.
I spend most of my time in Douglas County.
Yeah.
Commissioners, Barbara Drake for staff. I just want to recognize, because they're so well represented here today, our partners from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office who were right with us from the very beginning when we created the community response team that are staffing 4 of the teams that we have, and they've been terrific partners right from the very beginning. And we also obviously partner with Lone Tree Police, with Parker and Castle Rock Police, and with South Metro Fire and Castle Rock Fire. And so without all those important partners, we would not have the success that Laura talked about today. So I just want to recognize our law enforcement and fire EMS partners in this effort as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara Drake. Really appreciate that. Any additional citizen comment? Okay, any citizen comment online, Troy?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or a motion.
I would just like to thank Laura, Barbara, Maggie, everybody here who in Douglas County who started this and has done such an excellent job with this problem. And we all know well the murder-suicide that started all of this in January of 2014. I was serving as the coroner then. And that was a horrific situation that never should have happened. And that's when Douglas County said, as the leadership, we are going to do something about this because our citizens deserve better. And so in 2014 is when the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative began. And it took so much research, but that research and study was well done because I became a commissioner in 2017 and was so pleased to see the work that had been continuing while I was gone. And in May of 2017, the first community response team launched. And I have ridden with those teams. They are amazing. When they go into a house where there is a mental health crisis, you can just feel the level of tension drop because they are so well trained and they know what they are doing. And we know that in 2019 and 2020, the suicide numbers in this county dropped. And I truly believe that is a direct result of the community response teams, the CARE Compact, and the work that Douglas County continues to do. And by the end of this year, we will have 9 community response teams, 2 dedicated to kids in schools. So this county is leading the way in providing mental health services for our citizens, saving lives, and improving the quality of lives for all. So thank you again, Laura, Maggie, Barbara, the county administration that works so hard, as well as the 50-plus partners that have come together to make this happen. And so if there's no other comments, I'm happy to make a motion.
Please.
I have a motion to approve a resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Just want to thank you, Commissioner Thomas, as well for your leadership in the mental health initiative. That has always been a top priority of yours, and I think we have benefited from that engagement.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you very much. So with that, we'll move to our final item under Agenda Item 2, Ceremonies and Proclamations, which is a resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month. Brittany Castle, Curator, presenting for staff. And actually, I see Laura. Is Brittany joining us today?
Commissioners, unfortunately, Brittany is homesick today, so you're stuck with me.
Well, that's never a problem. Lauren Pulver, presenting for staff.
And if you don't mind, before I read the proclamation, I'd like to go through a brief presentation of some of our recent achievements on historic structures in the county.
Please.
In 2013, the McElmer Cabin and .33 acres was donated to the county by Joseph and Mary Cronin. The cabin is located near the intersection of Rampart Range Road and Waterton Canyon, and since 2014, the county has invested in the stabilization and restoration of this property. You can see here in this photo the severe damage that occurred due to the drainage issues on the property. In the first photo, the soil is covering the first few feet of the cabin base, and these logs were replaced. This has prevented the ability for the county to open this cabin for public access. Current grant-funded work is focusing on the replacement of the severely deteriorated sill logs, foundation restoration, structural stabilization, the front porch reconstruction, and some interior rehabilitation. In these photos, you can see the retaining wall that will prevent additional soil erosion. In the second photo, you can see the work done to stabilize the foundation, which will allow the cabin to be open to the public in the future. The current grant is expected to wrap up in October 2023. The Evans Gandy structure was homestead in 1873 and is located on the Lincoln Mountain open space. The main house in the photo was the second house to be erected on the property and is one of the few remaining structures on the property today. The house is an excellent example of the front gable-type building form that swept through the nation as homesteaders progressed westward. In addition to the architectural significance of the residence, it is also significant for its long association with farming and livestock production in Douglas County. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2012. In photo one, in the first and second photos, you can see the extent of work being done to strip the interior wall plaster down to the studs and remove the flooring to rebuild the structure to ensure future stability. In the third photo, you can see the instability of the loose rock foundation. This has been excavated and will be replaced. This is a project we are very excited about. It will open up opportunities for partnerships with open space to develop a trail that brings the public out to view the homestead. Prairie Canyon Ranch is a significant landmark property because of its wildlife habitat, contribution to Douglas County history, and serves as a valuable example of ranching history in Douglas County. The buildings serve as examples of vernacular ranch architecture with a strong German influence. In the first photo, you can see the state of the crumbling foundation. In the second photo, you can see the bowing of the foundation wall that has been stabilized. In the first photo on this slide, you can see how the interior foundation wall was temporarily stabilized. And in the second photo, you can see that the dirt was removed from the foundation base and the wall was stabilized. Additional work on the barn will include restoring windows and doors. Thank you for the time, Commissioners. At this time, I will read the resolution unless one of the Commissioners would like to do so.
Let me just ask the board if either of my colleagues would like to read the resolution.
I think Lauren will do a great job.
Lauren, please proceed.
A resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month. Whereas the National Trust for Historic Preservation created Preservation Week in 1971 to spotlight grassroots preservation efforts in America. It has grown into an annual celebration observed by small towns and big cities with events ranging from architectural and historic tours and award ceremonies to fundraising events, educational programs, and heritage travel opportunities. And whereas the National Trust has extended the celebration to the entire month of May and declared it Preservation Month to provide an even longer opportunity to celebrate the diverse and unique heritage of our country's cities and states, and enables more Americans to become involved in the growing preservation movement. The first official Preservation Month was observed in 2005. And whereas the National Historic Preservation Act has had a profound impact on Colorado, and historic places listed on the Douglas County, state, and national registers contribute to the revitalization and recognition of communities through heritage tourism and the preservation of historic places, which honor the diverse cultural, agricultural, natural, and built environments of our state. And whereas in Colorado, Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month is a celebration of our state's heritage. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners for the County of Douglas, State of Colorado, hereby proclaim that May 2023 shall be commemorated as Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. Any other questions or comments from the board?
My only comment, Lauren, is you always do a good job, and so I appreciate you stepping in and helping out with Brittany. You did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I'll open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment in the room with regard to this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, is there any online comment?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. With that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
Well, I definitely appreciate Lauren pitching here at this last minute, so thanks so much. You know, the history of Douglas County, it can be argued is one that is brief. The only issue is it's also a history that is fragile. And I, for one, I've always been a big history geek, but I think this is one of the most important things that we can do here in the county is making sure that we never lose touch with our brief but very fragile history and make sure that these historic structures, as we can, this is not cheap work. This is not free work in order to preserve these historic buildings for the future generations to understand where we came from. But I think it's important work and work well worth doing. And so it is truly my pleasure to make a motion to approve a resolution proclaiming May 2023 as Archaeology and Historic Preservation Month.
Second.
So there's a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion?
I'll just add that last year when the open space tax was extended, part of that will be used for historic restoration. And so these cabins and other buildings you see on these pictures that need a lot of work will now have a revenue stream to keep that updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And thank you to Commissioner Teal, our unofficial board historian, I would say, in addition to a couple of other great talents. If there's no further discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
And that passes 3-0. So with that, we will move on to item 3, which is our consent agenda. And I do understand that item O has been pulled.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
I misspoke earlier. It was pulled yesterday.
Pulled yesterday. Okay, thank you very much. Let me just ask if there's any citizen comment in the room with regard to any item on our consent agenda. Okay, Troy, any citizen comment on our consent agenda?
I have no online comment.
Okay, and with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or motion.
I have a motion to approve the request in all items A through N of the consent agenda. Item O has been pulled.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. So with that, we will move on to our regular agenda, and we'll start with item 4A, which is a contract with the Arapahoe Mental Health Center Incorporated doing business as All Health Network for Child Welfare Services in the amount of $119,060. Sharon Svensson, Special Projects Manager, presenting for staff. Not Sharon, Ruby. Hi, Ruby.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ruby Richards with the Department of Human Services presenting. Just wanted to present that this is a contract that we hope to engage with All Health for a co-located mental health therapist to assist child welfare investigations. It's a position that we have had previously last year. It's currently vacant, but I did just hear from All Health this morning that they have a candidate and an offer out to that candidate. So the goal of this position is very similar to our co-located public health nurse that partners with our child protection and adult protection staff. As you all are well aware, our caseworkers cannot be experts in everything. And so we find it really beneficial when we can take someone with us that's expertise is specifically mental health and mental health treatment. And so that way that person can partner with the caseworker immediately, go out, meet the family, assess what the mental health concerns might be, and if need be, engage in beginning some kind of stopgap services while we get the family or the person, individual, connected with mental health treatment as an ongoing basis. So it really is helpful for us as far as assessing what the issues and concerns are from a child protection standpoint, but also quickly getting services to that client while they either work through their own insurance to find services or to work with All Health themselves to, get up on the wait list for services. That way there's no gap in between. So we have found this to be a very successful program with our nursing and hope to see similar successes with All Health.
Great. Ruby, thank you so much. You always do such a wonderful job. Any questions for Ruby?
I would just like to thank Ruby and her staff. I think you have some of the most difficult jobs in the county, and your staff do a great job. And so when we have an additional tool like that can help you, I'm really happy to see something like this come forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
No questions.
And no questions for me either. Great job.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, let me open it up for any citizen comment on this item 4A. Is there any citizen comment in the room? Okay, seeing none, is there any citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
If it pleases the board, I do have a motion to approve a contract with Arapahoe Mental Health Center Incorporated, doing business as All Health Network for Child Welfare Services in the amount of $119,060.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. With that, we'll move on to item 4B on our regular agenda, which is a fee waiver request in the amount of $2,347.63 for Lennar Homes Helping a Hero program. Dan Avery, Special Projects Manager, presenting for staff. Hi, Dan.
Dan Avery for staff. Lennar Homes is, in partnership with Helping a Hero organization, is constructing a home for a wounded veteran, Corporal Ryan Garza. According to the website for the organization, Helping a Hero is a 501c3 organization based in Texas that has awarded over 100 homes in 23 states to our most severely wounded warriors injured in the global war on terror. Lennar Homes requests a fee waiver of eligible building permit fees associated with construction of a home at 8215 Sewanee Peak Street in Sterling Ranch. Please note that when this request was submitted, it was for a home at 8176 Sewanee Peak. The home for the Helping a Hero program is now planned for the home site at 8215. As such, these estimated fees are just that, they're estimates, and the total waiver may vary somewhat once the building permit is submitted. I'm pleased to introduce Jay Steinberg, Director of Forward Planning for Lennar, who has some brief remarks for the board.
Thank you, Dan. Welcome, Jay.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for your consideration. Lennar has partnered with Helping a Hero to provide this home for Corporal Garza at no cost to Corporal Garza. We're going to build a 2,100 square foot ranch home in which we will make modifications to that home to help Mr. Garza in his day-to-day life and help him flourish. It is a very small way to repay the tremendous debt that he has given to all of us. And I just wanted to thank you for your time and thank you for your consideration in the fee waiver.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm sure my colleagues will reference it, but no doubt yesterday we had the opportunity to spend some time with Lennar and Corporal Garza and really acknowledge the incredible sacrifice and the great work that you're doing as a community partner to serve him and really provide a benefit to our entire community.
Would you like to get his name for the minutes?
Yes, please. You want to just state your full name and where you're from?
Yes, my name is Jay Steinberg. I'm the Director of Forward Planning for Lennar, and I'm a resident of Jefferson County, Colorado.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Dan or Jay?
I have none, thank you.
Yeah, no questions. Well, I think we had plenty of time attending the ceremony yesterday where the presentation to Corporal Garza was made, and we had the groundbreaking of the house. I think we got filled in on all the good details, and I will definitely be in support of waiving these fees.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Teal. So with that, let me open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment with regard to this item? Okay, seeing none in the room. Troy, is there any citizen comment online?
Thank you, sir. I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And with that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
I have a motion to approve a fee waiver request in the amount of $2,347.63 for Lennar Homes Helping a Hero program.
It is an honor and privilege to second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll just add that we are deeply honored that we have an esteemed member of our armed services serving on our board, and Commissioner George Teal. So thank you for that, sir. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. With that, we will move on to item 4C in our regular agenda, which is the Arpa beneficiary agreement between Douglas County and the town of Parker in the amount of $75,000 for the acquisition of an unmarked police vehicle and necessary law enforcement equipment for use by one community response team. Once again, Dan Avery, Special Projects Manager, presenting for staff.
Thank you, Commissioners. This agreement is with the town of Parker and is substantially similar to American Rescue Plan Act beneficiary agreements previously approved with the town of Castle Rock and the city of Lone Tree. As you've noted, the agreement provides $75,000 to the town of Parker for acquisition of an unmarked police vehicle and necessary law enforcement equipment for use by their new community response team. As the board is aware, ARPA funds and state grant dollars are being used to fund the expansion of the county's community response team program from 6 to 9 teams in conjunction with our partners at Parker, Lone Tree, and Castle Rock. A portion of that funding is being used for new vehicles for participating agencies. Each partner agency is expected to continue its involvement in the CRT program for at least 5 additional years under these agreements. Expansion of the CRT program is possible through the hard work of the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative and its staff. Maggie Cooper is available if you have programmatic questions about the community response team, and I can answer any questions you have about this agreement.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan?
I have none.
No questions.
And I have none either. With that, I will open it up for any citizen comment. Is there any citizen comment with regard to this item 4C? Okay, seeing none in the room, is there any citizen comment online?
And I have no online comment, sir.
Okay, thank you, Troy. With that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and/or a motion.
You know, we have members of the press here today, and it's really quite unfortunate that this is not the topic that they are here to cover today, because it is these community response teams that I think we heard earlier are a critical piece of our mental health solution here in the county, separating mental health issues from the criminal justice system is the path forward that we know, we have data that has proven actually make sure that those are people who get care and don't just become another number in the criminal justice system. And so it's with real pleasure that I do make this motion to approve the ARPA beneficiary agreement between Douglas County and the town of Parker in the amount of $75,000 for the acquisition of an unmarked police vehicle and necessary law enforcement equipment for use by one community response team.
Now, Commissioner Teal, did I almost hear you give $75,000 to the town of Castle Rock?
No, you didn't. You almost heard Lone Tree.
I know, it was just right there.
Thank you for the correction.
So we have a first?
And I will second that. These community response teams, as I've said earlier, have saved lives, and I am really happy that we are able to have this ARPA money that we can continue to invest in our community.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll just add the benefit of that co-response, again, has not only been really significant for Douglas County, but our region and our state. And so really proud to be an ongoing partner with so many in the state with community response. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Dan. So with that, we'll move to our final item on the regular agenda, which is item 4D, our Fairgrounds Facilities Policy and Procedures and Rental Agreement Updates. Tim Hallmark, Director of Facilities, Fleet, and Emergency Services, presenting for staff. Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Here seeking your approval of a few updates to the Douglas County Fairgrounds Facilities Policies and Procedures, as well as the rental agreement. To clarify some of these changes, the renaming of the event center to the James R. Sullivan Event Center to be captured in all of our documents. The addition of an updated mission statement to state that all events are to be family friendly. That was added not only to our policy and procedures, but also to the mission statement that's on the Douglas County website. Fees were removed as exhibits and will be available on the website. That way we can assure that they're always the current, up-to-date fees. Added additional language to the general usage policies, just to clarify the right to interpret and enforce these policies and procedures. The main change there was simply the addition of interpret. Alcohol policies have also been updated to reflect our current operations at the fairgrounds, which is us operating without a liquor license. What that means for our event holders is if they're going to be alcohol served at their event, that they will actually need to get a special event permit that's issued by the town of Castle Rock. Also added additional language to the general compliance section of the policies and procedures to add and not to operate anything similar to a sexually oriented business as defined in the county zoning resolution in effect at the time of the event. Also additional language that was added to the actual rental agreement that lives outside of the policies and procedures. Douglas County shall always have the right to interpret, enforce the policies and procedures, and in its sole discretion to eject any or all persons who fail to comply with them or the directions of county staff. These original policies and procedures haven't been updated since 2017. Over the course of the last 5+ years, we've had numerous events where we just found that we needed clarification. Not that major changes need to be made, just making things more clearly stated so that our patrons and our event holders actually understood exactly what we were expecting for them to do. The 5 years of kind of looking at those different events is what brought to the fact that we just need to do a quick little update to these, make things clearer for our users of our facilities. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, Tim, thank you so much. And I do see Chris Pratt here from legal. Chris, did you have any additional input for us?
Thank you, Commissioner. Chris Pratt with the County Attorney's Office. I just wanted to add that the County Attorney's Office has reviewed all of these changes and found that they will help clarify what is and what is not allowed for users of the county fairgrounds. These clarifications will benefit not only the members of the public seeking to use the facilities, but also county staff charged with enforcing the board's intentions for fairground use. It will help ensure everyone who wishes to use the facilities will be held to the same reasonable standard while still allowing a wide diversity of activities to be held at those grounds.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Any questions or comments for staff?
I have none, thank you.
No, sir.
And I have none either. With that, we will open it up for any citizen comment. If there's any citizen comment in the room, if you want to line up at the podium and state your name and where you're from for the record, you will be given 3 minutes to speak on this topic.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I want to also thank, they left, the sheriffs. But my name is Maria Sumnick, and I live in the Pinery. And for the mental health of the youth and the minor of Douglas County, I'm here speaking to you. So there is a penalty for exposure in view of minors, and law enforcement can attest to this. Minors exposed to indecent exposure can and do suffer mental health conditions. So the Democrat Party introduced HB 231135, which would take criminal penalties for indecent exposure from a Class 1 misdemeanor to a Class 6 felony if committed in view of a person who is under 18. The measure was passed. Considering what happened in August of 2022 at the drag queen show here at the fairgrounds, a wardrobe malfunction in which a performer's clothing slipped, showing a lot of indecency, I would now like to discuss to you what indecent exposure laws are in Colorado. So over the overview of the laws, and I'm doing a PG version of this. So there's section 187301, which is public indecency, and section 187302, which is indecent exposure. So this is when knowingly someone exposes their private parts to another person in a way likely to alarm or offend the person. Also, knowingly exposes one's privates in view of another in a way to likely or to cause alarm or to offend with intent to arouse or satisfy any sexual desires in anyone. So indecent exposure also includes performing an act that is defined as the real touching, rubbing, or otherwise stimulating of a person's own privates. So with that, I mean, I can email you the rest of them if you'd like to know. But under current law, indecent exposure, again, has been made a Class 6 felony. And what this means is that a person who commits indecent exposure to a child under the age of 15 in view of the act, and a person is more than 18 years of age and more than 4 years older than the child, this is what the law was written for. So county residents do not want to take the First Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution away from drag queen assemblies. Drag queen burlesque shows are adult entertainment, as clearly shown in many photographs, okay? And in lieu of also what happened last year. So county residents only ask that this adult entertainment be located indoors and no minors, and no one under the age of 18 can attend because it is not age appropriate. The event should be for adults only. Now I'm asking you, each one of you, this question. There are only two possible answers, and I would like you to answer this. Who do you work for, the residents of Douglas County
briefly,
or for the drag
Ma'am, if I
queen
could interrupt
show?
you, your time is expired, and this is the time for public comment.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Joy Overbeck. I live in Parker. I tried sending each of you some video from last year's Pride Fest, but they failed to send. So I will describe them, and I might be getting a little obscene, okay? But remember, this was performed in front of children. One clearly shows a bearded drag queen in full exotic dancer sparkle outfit dancing and twerking sexually and aiming his exposed butt cheeks just a few feet in front of children 8 or 9 years old. Another video shows a person with full exposure of fake nipples and breasts belting out a song promoting sex and sadomasochism. Quote, "I may be bad, but I'm perfectly good at it. Sex is in the air. I don't care. I love the smell of it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but chains and whips excite me." If you haven't seen this video, I'm going to have to try to get it to you another way. This is an obscene performance and violates numerous Colorado public indecency and obscenity laws, as Maria pointed out some of them. And there's a lewd exposure of an intimate body part section, including plastic breasts. Performers grabbing their crotches violates Colorado masturbation laws and is in other photographs. Another video shows young girls up on stage performing in a drag dance contest, mimicking the drag queen's sexual twerking and dancing. This can only be called recruitment, promoting sexualization and sexual confusion to children. This pride group did this before. I hear that 2019 was much worse. And they'll do it again. Most of us learn from people's prior behavior what their future behavior is likely to be. Pride Fest has reserved Douglas County Fairgrounds August 25th, 26th, and Sunday the 27th. That's 12 hours each day at indoor Kirk Hall and 12 hours simultaneously at the big outdoor stage. That's 72 hours in 3 days, all weekend long. They will fill that 72 hours with more of the same. They are asking Denver drag queens to come here to Douglas County and participate. And they also have kids time, including drag queen story time for toddlers age 3 and up. This is unacceptable. We all believe in the First Amendment, freedom of speech. That's why we're asking for this to be held indoors, where only adults can see it. This is an adult show. Last year, private security actually intimidated and chased away citizens who were peacefully filming their shows. Not even protesting, just filming. What are they ashamed of? Doesn't seem they believe in the First Amendment. We hear about society's protected classes. How about children as a protected class? You are our elected representatives, and we charge you with acting to protect our children. Please do the right thing and stipulate in these new policies that sexually oriented drag queen shows must be held indoors for adults only. I ask a continuance on this matter until this is revised to reflect what I just said and what so many of us want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Overbeck. Further citizen comment? Yes, ma'am.
Good
And again, if you want to just state your name and where you're from for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Pam Hampton from Parker, and I'm here today to talk about the same thing that Joy talked about. This doesn't affect me in any way. I don't have young kids. I don't have any grandkids, but it's still something I believe in strongly that we need to do as a county. These shows should not be for anybody under the age of 18. Ask yourself, why do drag queens want to perform to children? I think the answer should be very, very obvious why they would want to do that. Also ask yourself, would I take my kids or grandkids to see men or women gyrating and partially stripping? I hope the answer to the second question is no. There are movies that have an NC-17 rating where no one under the age of 18 is allowed. So these drag queen shows should be treated exactly the same. The purpose of an NC-17 over an R rating is because some parents don't know what is wrong for their children. Have you heard about the group Gays Against Groomers? This group directly opposes the sexualization and indoctrination of children, including drag queen story hours, drag shows involving children, transitioning and medicalization of minors, and gender theory being taught in the classroom. I think this is a strong message coming from part of the LGBTQ community. During the drag queen show last summer at the DC Fairgrounds, there was a wardrobe malfunction, which the group said was accidental. There have been these incidents at other shows around the country, so how can we be assured it won't happen again? I don't think we can trust that the malfunction won't happen again, so these shows must be banned to all minor children. Please put this important, crucial matter on your docket immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. Further citizen comment? Is there any further citizen comment in the room?
Hi, my name is Michael Campbell. I'm here in Castle Rock. And I actually want to start a little bit different. I want to congratulate Commissioner Layden for the Harvard leadership training you're going to be receiving. I honestly think that is going to be good for you. And I want to actually compliment the three of you. This is the first meeting I've been to where you guys seem to be a cohesive unit and getting along. I don't know what has what has brought about those changes, but it's a nice change not to see so much tension up there. I will say, if the county is willing to pay for your further education, I would suggest maybe you guys the county pays for the legal fees that Laura Thomas has to accrue because of your
sir, I appreciate
leadership.
your comments, but if you could keep them germane to the agenda item.
I was trying to compliment you, which I have a reputation.
That's kind.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I just wanted to compliment you.
Appreciate your civility.
I wanted to talk to what the ladies articulately said, but I looked at the RuPaul drag show, and it says that it's age appropriate for 10 to 13-year-olds. I don't think so. So I want to further add that I don't think it's accidental wardrobe malfunctions that are the issue. I think it's the entire concept. I think if high school won't let children wear tight-fitting clothing, I don't think we should allow performers to wear tighter clothing in front of children. I think that it is a over-sexualization of our kids. Commissioner Layden, you have spoken many times that Douglas County's job is growing families. I think this is an erosion of families. It's an erosion of family values. And I do want to be clear, nobody's stating that we should limit people's rights to assembly, rights of freedom of speech, and to be themselves. But I do think that the appropriate measure the county should take is to recognize that this is an adult-themed performance, just like any other strip club, and it should not be allowed for children. This should be indoors, it should be adults only, and I think that is probably what the majority of the county would request. We have rules regarding strip clubs and movies and what these other ladies have said, and I just think we should not be so ignorant to think that these shows are not of the same ilk. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And I'll just add, I may not agree with everything you said, but appreciate your civility, how articulate you were, and your professionalism. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Art. I'm from Parker. I'd like to ask the group, how many people feel like what they saw or at the Fairgrounds for the drag show was inappropriate and don't want to see it again? Good. We're all in agreement. Let me clarify. My name is Art Kirkasian. I'm the co-chair of the Douglas County Pride Fest group. The events of last summer do not represent the values of Castle Rock Pride and the Douglas County Pride Fest. We admit that there was a lack of oversight, and we've changed our policies and procedures to prevent exactly what you were talking about from happening. We do not believe drag is sexually, in and of itself, is sexually explicit. It can be, just like a movie can be X-rated or G-rated. We have put in safeguards as parents who are planning this event for our children. Why would we want to put in anything sexual by nature in that regard? So we applaud your willingness to prevent nudity from happening at the Douglas County Fairgrounds. We also have a clause in our code of conduct that prevents nudity at our Pride Fest. So we're in agreement there. We're all in agreement that what happened last year is not something that we want to see again. But we wholeheartedly disagree with the right, taking away the right from our parents to be able to choose what is appropriate for their children. Douglas County was the cry of parent rights during the pandemic and of parental right whether or not their children should wear masks. These people are asking you to prohibit our parents from choosing what is appropriate for their children. I don't like slasher movies. I think they're inappropriate, but I do not try and ban R-rated slasher movies or PG-rated horror movies because I don't like them. If a parent chooses to take their children to it, that's fine. In terms of gyrating and those kinds of things, our procedures will limit and eliminate the sexual content of the lyrics, the activities that they're being described as sexual in nature, there is such a thing as a G-rated drag show, and we are here to prove that. Did any of you attend the drag show last year?
We've seen a lot of videos.
And again,
did you attend the drag show?
I'm going to just real quickly, I'm going to ask that everybody just direct their comments to the board and just maintain order, please.
We did not have any negative comments from our parents who brought their children to the drag show. If you don't want to see a drag show for your children, if you think that's inappropriate, please don't come. But don't take away the right of our parents to choose what is appropriate for our children as long as it meets the county's zoning and facility regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkasian. Additional citizen comment. Is there any additional citizen comment? Ma'am, I think you've already had an opportunity to make comment. Is there any additional?
Can you talk again as a response?
We're going to make sure that everybody in this room has an opportunity to speak, Ms. Overbeck. No, we only provide one opportunity per citizen to speak, out of fairness to everybody else that's here. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John McHugh. I'm with the law firm of Fenimore Craig. I represent the Castle Rock Pride. I want to start by applauding the idea of making what is and is not allowed at the fairgrounds clear. I think that's wise. I think it's good. As your resident historian knows, one of the central fights in the founding of this country is against arbitrary government power, giving the government power to simply declare post hoc when things are appropriate and not appropriate. What I would say is I disagree with the attorneys, and as somebody who does a lot of litigation in contract dispute as well as civil rights disputes, phrases like anything similar to do not provide clarity either to the event holders or to the patrons as to what is and is not allowed. Actually, some of the comments up here gave the commission a much cleaner way of doing that, which is to say that, certainly public indecency and indecent exposure would not be allowed. But I simply, having practiced for nearly 15 years, have no idea what the phrase anything similar to means. And I would challenge you to find a single law that has passed constitutional muster that has the phrase anything similar to in, because nobody knows. And the way these regulations are written is they are going to give the commission the power to declare after an event has occurred what is and is not similar to forbidden. I would encourage the commission to take another look at this language. I've provided Mr. Garcia some proposals in a way to tighten that language up so that, in fact, both the event holders and the patrons and the public understand what the expectations at the fairgrounds are. As Mr. Kirkasian said, Castle Rock Pride is committed to complying with regulations, with complying with policies. We all just need to know beforehand, not afterhand, what those policies and procedures are. And so I'd encourage you to, take another look at that and see if that vague phrase can't be tightened up in a way so that this commission knows what its powers are, the public knows what is appropriate and inappropriate, and what to expect at event holders, and event holders know going into it what their programming can and cannot be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Additional citizen comment?
Can I give my 3 minutes to her?
No, you may not. Additional citizen comment? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Candace Mullins, and I live in Parker, Colorado. I didn't plan on speaking today. I just planned on coming and supporting the women that were speaking earlier. But since you're not allowing them to finish what they had to say, then I will speak up. I don't even know what we're doing here. I remember a county fair used to be where you went to ride the rides. You took your family to see all the animals that the youth had raised during the year, and to have pie contest and blue ribbons for the best blankets. Why are we even here? And where does this all stop? Where does it stop? If we're going to have gay pride out there, if we're going to have drag queens dancing through there, I'm not going to bring my family. That is not friendly. That is not family friendly. And I'm disappointed that we even have to be here. Why can't we just make it where it's a friendly thing that has nothing to do with sex or with gay people or with plain people? Why aren't we just out there having a good time with our families, taking our kids, making memories that will last a lifetime? Why are we out there doing this? I don't understand it. I don't understand why we're here today. I don't understand what the question is about that. We shouldn't have anything, and where does it stop? If we don't stop here, are we going to pretty soon have, I don't know what could come next, but have other things like strip places that people can go into at the county fair. It's no longer a county fair if you do these things. It's no longer a family-friendly event if you do these things. And I'm very disappointed that we have to be here. I truly am. And I hope that you will consider this. What an awesome responsibility you have to the families and the community here in Douglas County to make these decisions, what can be and what can't be, at our family-friendly event. Thank you for letting me speak my piece.
Thank you, ma'am. Additional citizen comment? Okay. Is there any additional citizen comment online?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a couple of folks waiting.
Okay.
First one will be Amy Winju. Amy, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, and I want to thank the three commissioners today for their hard work and patience in listening to this. The item that I would like to address is specifically 2 points. One regards updating the mission statement so all events are family friendly. In section 36 of the definitions of the county, whatever it's called, guide, there is a definition for family, but there isn't a definition for family friendly. I would suggest and would like to propose that a definition be provided. Obviously, that's going to open up a can of worms, but since you all use the language that all events are to be family friendly, I think that needs to get hammered out. The second point that I would like to bring up is about the additional language for general compliance, which states not to operate anything similar to a sexual-oriented business as defined in the county zoning resolution. I looked up the county zoning resolution, and from what I can tell of section 36, a couple of things. And maybe I'm just not looking at the right page, but it seems as if those definitions haven't been updated since 1999. A lot has changed since 1999. And so what I would like to propose is that Douglas County needs to define a few terms. It needs to define under the sexual business, it uses binary terms like male and female. So when we are talking about a female breast exposure, 2 things. We need to define what is a female, and we need to define what is a female breast. The other item that I would propose to make Douglas County more inclusive is we need to include some 21st terminology regarding gender identity, because the 2 performers did not fit into the binary definition of male and female. I think it's important to include that terminology. So Douglas County definitions need to come into the 21st century and include terms like non-binary and what that definition is. And under that, non-binary prosthetic breast, that needs to get updated, as well as transgender needs to get into that definition and include transgender breast prosthetic and what that definition is. I'm sure there's more ways that terminology can be updated in the definitions to be more inclusive, but those are just my suggestions for today. Because the 2 individuals that exposed their breasts, little kids didn't know that they were fake. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winju. Additional citizen comment?
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have Aaron Wood ready to comment. Sir, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Wood, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for bringing this up for discussion today. I just want to make it clear. Douglas County needs to enforce strict guidelines defining exactly what family-friendly events are, instead of just slapping a title on any such event and saying, quote, oh, hey, it's family-friendly. We need to ensure the safety and well-being of children and families who attend these events. in our community. And I know without clear guidelines, there's going to be risk of exposing children to inappropriate content and activities, and these will have long-lasting negative effects on their development and well-being. And we need to start as a community, and from our commissioners as leaders in our community, start standing up for the well-being of our children instead of placating to the Marxist progressive agendas that we see so often. I almost wanted to thank Art from Castle Rock Pride for having a sensible approach until he went off the rails saying, you know, who attended this event. I saw firsthand what this, quote, family-friendly drag show did at the Fairgrounds last summer, where you had several male transvestite strippers on stage exposing fake body parts and gyrating in front of children, men dealing with autogynephilia, which is a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female performing in front of children and others in the crowd. I do want to thank George Teal for actually having the sense to boldly stand up for children in the community and call foul on what happened at the Fairgrounds. Laura, you're too afraid of being sued. And Abe, you completely gaslit and called anyone opposed to this as a bigot. And I think that's awful. The problem is this: we have allowed, through a lack of leadership and a lack of standing boldly in defense of children, to allow these events to happen. And we can't just put a new line, quote, family friendly in a policy statement and think that we fixed this. And then basically by saying to the Castle Rock Pride organizers that you can define what this entertainment will be and you provide the safeguards for your entertainment is wrong. What we need is a community committee of parents and volunteers to decide as a community what we deem family friendly to be, so that we can ensure we don't have any more of this perverse sexual performances happening in our community facilities and in front of children.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
That's all I got to say.
Troy, do we have any additional citizen comment?
I have no further online comments, sir.
Okay, thank you, Troy. With that, I'll close citizen comment and bring it back to the board for any further discussion and or motion.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone who came here to speak. This has been a topic that has been on many people's minds in this community, and I think it's not, there's a lot of people in this community that don't even know what's going on here. After the event at Pride, and I started getting videos of what happened, I had staff reach out to the Pride organizers, and I met with Art and 5 other members of Pride to talk with them to find out what was their goal? What were they trying to accomplish with their event? And I asked them, did you accomplish what you wanted to? And they said no. And when I asked them why, they said it was the drag show. So they understand what went wrong. And I have met with them many times and talked with them many times since that event. And they don't want a repeat of that. And that's when they actually gave me a list of guidelines that they were going to adhere to. I think it was 4 days after the event that I met with them, and they already had a list of guidelines for 2023. And they assured me that there would be no nudity. That they told me that there are parents who believe that drag is an art form and they want their kids to see it. I see people in the audience shaking their heads. We also receive, as commissioners, complaints from people that want us to stop prayer at the fair and the rodeo. And so we have to figure out how we balance the needs of the community. You know, when Aaron spoke, he said that I'm afraid of being sued. The whole story is that I don't want to be sued because I have violated my oath of office. This is the oath of office that I signed, and retired Judge Tom Curry also signed when I was sworn in for my second term as commissioner on January 12th of 2021. And it says that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States. So there might be things that happen that I don't like. I have told Pride that I am not bringing my family to their event, and they've told me that they are going to strive to have an event this year that I will want to bring my family to next year. So I think that what we have crafted here are guidelines for everyone who uses any of the county facilities. if it's a pavilion at a park, if it's something at the Douglas County Fairgrounds, any rental contract that we have will have all of these same words in them. So everybody understands that there will be no nudity. And if there is any nudity, we have the right to shut down the event. We have the right to not let that group rent any of our facilities again in the future. And that is what we are accomplishing here. I'd also like to say that earlier in the day, we talked about a lot of mental health things that we are doing in Douglas County. We put up a grant, a total of $1.5 million in grant money for people, for organizations who wanted to help those struggling that might end up with suicide. One of the grants that this Board of Commissioners approved is to Pride Fest. Because as Commissioner Layden said, LGBTQ community are at a very high risk for suicide. And as the Douglas County Commissioner, I can attest to that. I worked for the State Health Department for 7 years researching homicide and suicide. And the LGBTQ community is overrepresented in that suicide group. So I applaud Pride for having a program that met our standards so we could keep people alive. I would ask that we give everybody who uses our facilities in the next year to demonstrate that they can meet the requirements that they sign to and agree to in the contract. And if they don't, then they will know what will happen. And so I would ask that we all work together so that I and my other commissioners can support the oath of office that we took that allows us to sit up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
Back in the Army, we had a phrase that I always found very humorous. Usually came from, and I hope nobody is from the South and offended by this, but it came from the soldiers who are from the South, usually NCOs and officers. And the phrase is, we're going to begin to get to fixing to commence and start. Which, to somebody educated in the state of Colorado, it sounds like they just said we're about to begin 4 different ways, 4 different times to describe just beginning. Obviously, when we heard the initial description of what's being done here today, and we heard some people ask, what are we doing here today? What we're doing here today is we're updating the procedure manual and the use manual for our fairgrounds, which I think we heard from our Director of Facilities is in need. I mean, we're removing fees that do change. We change by market. And then we are updating what is the actual mission of the fairgrounds. Why is it really there? Why do we, as a people, invest our funds in a place for us to meet? Obviously, we did hear some discussion today about some of those uses and what they should be for and what they should not be used for. And the real focus here, the real point of what we're doing is we're not, once again, beginning to get to fixing to start to commence. It might just be a beginning. There is still more work to do. I think we heard many good ideas from many of you today about the work that is still to continue. I am in favor of making these changes as was presented to us by staff, because if we never begin, then we are never going to get to the state we desire.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. I appreciate the views and the hard work of my colleagues, and I will tell you that the number of not just hours, but days and weeks and years that they have invested, and the county has invested in listening and trying to understand and trying to balance competing interests have been tremendously significant. And I also thank each of you for being here. I respect the sacrifice of time that you made to be here with us today on an afternoon, regardless of where you stand on this issue, and we are listening. As government leaders in Douglas County, the state of Colorado and the United States of America, we are bound to uphold the Constitution of the United States as well as the Colorado Constitution. Intrinsic in those responsibilities is the requirement that we uphold the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and freedom of expression, within the time, place, and manner restrictions that are afforded us by law. Our view and the view of our county council is that this updated fairgrounds and facilities policy and rental agreement does exactly that. Our job today is to balance the importance of upholding constitutional freedoms with the desire that we all share, all of us as a community, to protect children. I want to be very thoughtful about our premises. You know, when we talk about the issue of pride and we talk about the issue of drag queens, I heard a wonderful individual speak to, you know, the county fair and how important that is and why are we here. We love the county fair. We love those traditions. It started as a butter festival about 100 years ago. It's incredible. And so we continue to support all of those amazing traditions on an annual basis, and you've seen us do that. But we also recognize that in a community of nearly 400,000, not all families look exactly alike, and there are families that are different than your family and my family. I will say, you know, if your view is that pride and gay people are not welcome in Douglas County, I'm going to disagree with you, and so will the law. If your view is that all drag queens are evil and out to get children, I'm going to disagree with you, and so will virtually any drag queen. So again, I want to be really clear that we support freedom of expression and the Constitution, but we are not going to censor or book burn or tell people what they can or cannot say and express, because then again, we just become fascist dictators if we do that. Now, the flip side is we always want to protect families and protect young people. And again, to Commissioner Thomas's point, we know that from a mental health and suicide prevention standpoint, LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to kill themselves. And usually that's ages 14 to about 24. So if at 15, you're old enough to make that horrible life decision of ending your own existence, I think the opportunity to pour into their lives and to share that, you know, there may be people that look differently than the mainstream, and that's okay. That's an important message to share with our community. You know, I'll be really, I think, candid with you as well. It's no secret that I am a Republican. I'm a Christian. I'm a father, and I'm also a member of the LGBTQ community. I support all of those groups, and those aren't mutually exclusive. I believe that the God I believe in loves all people. And there's really an opportunity to educate and inform one another at any age that love exists and pervades. I want to continue to support and listen to all of you. I know that we've talked about a potential live town hall to have a further discussion around this, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that different viewpoints are here for all of us to hear from one another and really understand those perspectives. The area of agreement that I heard is what happened last year at Pride Fest was not okay to anybody. That wasn't okay with anyone, including Pride Fest, who apologized. I don't ever want to see that again, and I know that's Art's commitment to us as well. As we continue moving forward as a community, my only ask is that we continue to just listen, to be thoughtful, to be responsive to one another, and to try to continue to move forward in a way that lifts up not only the adults in this community, but of course our vulnerable children as well. So with that, I'll ask for any additional discussion and/or a motion.
I would just like to further add that I think that all parents are not created equally, that what some parents in this room think is appropriate, other parents would not think is appropriate. And that I do believe that parents have the right to choose what is best for their children. There are lines that identify what is right and wrong. A parent can't give their 12-year-old pot and tell them it's okay to smoke. And that's why we have the Human Services Department that we do. But a parent can take a child to an R-rated movie. And we have a commitment from Pride Fest that this is going to be a G-rated show. The other thing that we heard, Candace spoke very much about the county fair. This has nothing to do with the county fair. The county fair is going to continue to be what it has always been. It's just going to become bigger and better. We have higher standard for rodeo because we have a bigger purse. While this is at the fairgrounds, it's a month after the county fair. So just to be clear, this is not part of the county fair. The way that we are able as Douglas County to support our facilities is by renting them out year-round. And by using them, we're able to keep them fresh. And by charging rental fees, we are able to have the financial wherewithal to invest and continue to maintain our fairgrounds. That's why we are updating our policy, like Commissioner Teal said, so that our contracts are applicable to everybody who uses any of our facilities. And this is something that could be an ongoing discussion. We had a caller who talked about other terms that maybe we want to think about. Those are discussions that we can continue to have. But for the meantime, I support what we have here, and I appreciate all the staff here that have worked so hard since August of last year to bring forward something that I think this community can stand behind and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And reminded me of just maybe a final point from my perspective. I've seen a lot of social media posts about this issue. I think information and education is always great, but when there are public pictures posted of the prosthetic nipple on Facebook where there are children that are on Facebook, I think is just as bad. How many young people are going to Facebook and seeing these reposts of this nipple? Again, I think we need to be really thoughtful about, if we want to protect kids, let's be careful about what we're posting. I think the other issue too is, we all go to football games, we go to Mile High, watch the Dallas Cowboys play, and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are dancing in a very sexual way in almost dental floss. But you don't really hear a whole lot about that sort of sexual gyration in front of young people where there are lots of kids present all the time. So again, our job is to make sure we have the same consistent standard for all people, and especially look out for the most vulnerable, those young people among us. Any additional discussion or comments? I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I have a motion to approve fairgrounds, facilities, policy and procedures, and rental agreement updates.
Second.
So we have a first and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries 3-0. So with that, we will move on to the next item in our agenda, which is any other citizen comment or organization comments. So at this time, you are welcome to comment about any topic other than what was scheduled on today's regular agenda. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts and ideas with us. You can state your name and where you reside prior to making comments, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. Commissioner comments, if any, will follow all citizen comments. Any additional citizen comment? Okay, let me ask if there's any additional citizen comment online.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have Aaron Wood said he has additional comment. Would you allow him to speak on this item?
It would actually be anything that is not on today's regular agenda, so if it's something related to a previous item on the agenda, that would not be appropriate at this time.
All right, one moment, let's check together.
I guess it's inappropriate.
Then we have no additional online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy, and with that, we'll close citizen comment. Item 6 is other business. Any other business for the commissioners today?
Other business?
Okay, and then item 7 is our county manager's report. Anything from our county manager?
No comments today.
Okay, thank you. Finally, item 8 is commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments?
In the interest of time, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Teal?
No, I'll keep it quick, but hey, thanks, colleagues, for getting behind the waiving the fees for Marine Corporal Garcia. Again, and I know I expressed this privately earlier, but I just want to publicly thank you two for coming out. Again, a veteran who sacrificed a great deal. Lost a leg. He spoke about the years of agony, deciding whether he would keep his leg and then finally deciding to let it go, all because of combat actions done on behalf of our sacred republic in Central Command. And thank you guys for coming out, supporting this new neighbor for all of us. I'm positive having Marine Corps veteran who saw combat amongst us will make us better.
Thank you, Commissioner Teal. I'll also keep my comments brief in the interest of time. I know we have folks waiting for us, but I'll agree with the gentleman who shut up today that I'm also really impressed by the increased civility and professionalism from this board. We don't always disagree, nor we don't always agree, nor should we, and it's perfectly fine to disagree, but really pleased and honored to work with both of you and for us to collectively labor on behalf of those we serve. So appreciate that. So the next business meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. We are adjourned.